The world is changing at breathtaking speeds, with trends and fads popping up and passing away at breakneck pace. Against that backdrop of nearly constant upheaval, we welcome you to the Sunday Scotch Society. Over delectable, sumptuous scotches and with the occasional good cigar in hand, we have open, honest, and uninhibited conversation about whatever strikes our fancy. Whether it's the critical issue of the day or a deep dive down the rabbit hole, we take it all seriously while having a good time. Join us for a stiff drink and a great conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sunday Scotch Society. I am Kyle Quincy Shareem, a name my mother made up, Vaughn Cedric Parker, a.k.a. K. Quincy Parker, a.k.a. Daddy Q, a.k.a. that dude. And today I am standing on my business. Today I am in my bag. Today is a day, as they say. I am joined today by that other dude. I almost called him another word, but I don't want to do that on this wonderful day while the Reverend is sitting there with his lady wife listening to us. So, Rev, only because of you, I ain't say that other word. But this dude is brilliant and such an unusual thinker. He's a storyteller in ways that I really like. I have nothing but respect for him. He is my partner in this endeavor. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Matthew B. Kelly, that dude.
Good afternoon, K. Quincy Parker.
I feel like you laughing, but I ain't sure why.
I mean, sometimes life is amusing.
All right, fair enough.
But it's been a long time. So, how are you and how was your week?
Ah, boy. I am well. I am very well. I am very well. My week was difficult in some regards, but overall, you know, uh, I'm okay. I'm okay. Have some things going on in Quincy land that require focus and attention. Uh, but I am thankful that I am able to give the focus and attention required. The alternative does not bear considering. So yeah, overall I'm good.
Here,
And I'm excited about this chat today and what I am going to be sipping on the Sunday Scotch Society today. Um, and I will have to beg forgiveness or indulgence um, when we finish the this part of our conversation and get to the part where we talk about what we will be sipping today.
no, I mean, I look forward to this as well. So, at your leisure.
Yeah, no, but you got to tell me how you're doing. I mean, we are apart
Oh,
because you are on a presuming you don't mind talking about it. You're on a different island than I am.
yeah, no, coming to you from Freedom Island.
Hmm.
Was this week has been interesting, which I think is the standard euphemism for when life is coming at you.
You know what I'm saying?
But if I could see the Atlantic and the the bank side or the east side, sorry, west side, or whatever you want to call it, even Arawak Sea, a former Commodore, oh sorry, Lucayan Sea is what a former Commodore of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force is advocating for. As long as you do not call it the Caribbean Sea, I am happy. But once you could see both sides of Eleuthera, and then those black velvet night skies with stars, you know, gets you through.
Hmm. Yeah, it's I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday about the fact that in my view, to a large extent, we take for granted that we live in the most beautiful place in the world. I was on the telephone and I turned to my left and looked out at the ocean and I was like, there is no place else in the universe where one can stand where I am standing, look out and see the sheer majesty. The absolute God was in his bag when he designed the Bahamas. This is his masterwork. You understand what I'm saying? As an artist, this is his magnum opus, or her magnum opus, or their magnum opus, or its magnum opus, as your spiritual practice demands. But just the majesty of our natural environment is it is something that has come to be much more present in my thinking lately, you know? And yeah, I think your 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 commentary is not even remotely amiss or off base at all.
Yeah, we gotta get a conversation about the environment, a series about the environment in general.
Yeah. Hmm.
I think that'll be nice this year.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I thoroughly agree. So
But tell me,
sorry, go ahead.
what are you sipping on today, sir?
Well, today being Cinco de Mayo adjacent, uh, I decided that I would sip on uh, a a tequila that has long been the subject of the object, excuse me, of intense desire and enjoyment for me. I am sipping today on the Casa Noble tequila, and I've chosen to sip on the Blanco. And one of the reasons that I chose the Blanco is because, and we can get into the details a little more as we chat, but there's I think a misperception among the people who are experimenting and indulging in drinking fine spirits nowadays, that when it comes to tequila, the reposado and the añejo, uh, that these tequilas that say aged are somehow better than the blanco tequila offerings. But the reality is, a blanco is the purest form of the expression of the distiller that a tequila can have, because the blanco tequilas are well, the blanco for Casa Noble is triple distilled. It is distilled once, and then it is distilled again, and then it is distilled a third time just to concentrate and amplify whatever the natural flavors are that are there in the blue Weber agave that make up the tequila. This is 100% blue Weber agave. And whatever sort of other fruit and floral and herbal and smoky and spicy notes exist in the tequila. The Blanco is the the distiller's statement. This is what tequila from my distillery, from my estate, should taste like. And then they use that as a base for the reposado or for the añejo. But those things are not really the purest form of that house's tequila. The purest form is the Blanco. And so that's why I chose to sip on the Casa Noble Blanco today. And I'm really looking forward to it. What about you?
Well, um, I will sip and toast to your purism with a not so pure a blended Scotch that I'm just now trying out, the Dewar's White Label.
Oh man, yeah. Okay. That's actually a
So,
really good scotch. I like that a lot.
yep. I mean, it's delicious on the nose so far. So we shall see.
Yeah, last week or the last episode of the show, I talked about the five different kinds of scotch that are recognized by the official sort of Scottish council for scotch. And one of the things that people um, like to talk about is the difference between single malt and blended scotches, as though as though they are somehow, well, let's put it this way. There is a there is a reality, and the reality is that single malt Scotch whiskey is it has the cachet and the prestige, but all single malt really means is that all of the malts that have been blended to create that whiskey come from the same distillery. It doesn't mean that they all come from the same barrel, and it doesn't have any kind of sacredness to it except that it's all malts from the same distillery. And the fact is that the blended malt scotches, like Dewar's, are the product of more than one malt distillery. That's the only difference, right? I mean, it's a significant difference because the ability to take and weave malts from other distilleries into the blend that you're creating uh, gives the blenders a lot more flexibility, and this is why the flavor profiles of blended scotches can be so much broader than single malt scotches, unless they are, of a certain quality. But blended scotches are and can be as elevated, as refined, and certainly as expensive as the single malt Scotch offerings as well. So the Dewar's White Label is a very nice blended Scotch, and I think if you have not already enjoyed it, I think you will enjoy it quite well.
Yes, I think I will. So
Well, you know
there
how
there are some Japanese blends out there that are just exquisite. So I'm
And
looking
then
forward to this Scotch.
yeah, Namiki, Akai. There's a couple of others that are really, yeah. So we'll have to get some of them. There's one there's a Tenjaku that I'm excited about too. That one I haven't had, so I'm excited to try it. I am going to do the thing with the tequila. Ooh, my goodness. Wow. 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 I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It took me by surprise because the first thing I smell just after opening the bottle is almost like a, a baked or roasted pear. And I don't mean avocado pear, I mean like the fruit pear. Wow.
uh,
And
Bahamian pear, avocado is still a fruit.
you know what I mean. And after that, I'm getting caramel. Is that from the? Oh my goodness! And then a little smokiness from the. Wow! I'm gonna, I haven't even poured it yet. That's just what was off the bottle. So I'm gonna pour it now. I'm definitely closing that bottle, or else I'm going to be in huge trouble. Oh my goodness! Yeah, that smells so good. Oh my gosh! All right, so I'm going to wait for you to open yours so that we are sipping at the same time, my brother.
Yeah, I have taken the liberty of pre-pouring, so
Ah,
I'm just going in for the nose right now.
are you?
Oh, that's hmm, I'm getting images of uh of candy here. There's a definite strong strain of apple. Mm, little woodiness, slight smoke. Oh, I think this is going to be good. Oh yes, definite strong strain of apple, little woodiness, some definite smoke. Yes, I think that's going to be quite fine.
Hmm. 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 Yeah, you're gonna. Well, I have picked up my snifter into which I have poured. This looks like an ounce, maybe an ounce and a half of the Casa Noble Blanco, um, which I hope will be sufficient to last us throughout this conversation, or else I might be in problems. And so I'm going to take my first sip. Mm. Oh, wow. Okay. So a little tequila knowledge. The the distiller that creates Casa Noble, Pepe Hermosillo, uh, the process. So I don't know if you're familiar with the agave plant and the way tequila is made, but the agave plant basically like a giant pineapple, and it has the those leaves up at the top, and then under the ground is what they call the piña, which oddly enough is Spanish for pineapple. But that's exactly what it looks like. And what you do is you crush the piña, and the juices are allowed to ferment, and then they go through the distillation process to create the tequila. So what Pepe has done differently is he instead of crushing the pina, they squeeze the pina. And the difference in that particular step means that the sort of harshness and acidic notes that you can get from some other tequilas are absent from the Casa Noble. It's a lot smoother and more gentle, uh, which allows the other flavors that are developed through the distillation and fermentation process to to be more forward than they might be in a more acidic or bitter tequila offering. So this is very, very delicious, very smooth. I'm not saying that there's no tequila burn that you're going to get down in your chest, but I'm saying that when you sip it, you don't get any acidic bitterness on your tongue. All you can taste on your tongue is a little bit of the sugar from the pina. You can taste some of that fruity note. Like when I said I smelled the pear, I can taste that. I taste the agave. It's a little smoky as well, which is really nice. So this is definitely something to sip on for the next hour. Delicious, just truly delicious. Happy Cinco de Mayo, Jack. Woo! That's me, sir.
All right. That is, huh. So on the palate, the apple is not super forward. Um, Going in for the sip, I on the nose was getting vanilla, which I don't often get in these whiskeys where you are picking it up. So I don't know if my nose is developing or this is just a more forward example of that. I don't know. There's a little bit of cinnamon. Uh, about middle of the road on smoothness, I would say. A little bit of is that grass? But like dried grass. And yeah, maybe a little oakiness. Yeah, the woodiness sort of like solidifying into a bit of oak. Yeah, that's respectable, man. That is something I would break out for casual company.
For casual company.
Yeah, man. I'm I'm not trying to have a library of uh of spirits at my house. So and I'm not trying to break the bank every time a friend comes over. So that'll do for middle of the road. I like it.
I am glad that you are making a declaration about your non having a Scotch librariness after having made the exact opposite declaration when we were tasting the Macallan the first time.
I have no memory of this.
Of course you don't. Of course you don't.
I
this
I
is
do remember making this declaration of not having a library on the podcast before though. So I'm gonna go with the recorded evidence.
I'm pretty sure that there is recorded evidence of you saying that the naked malt would definitely make it into your library, which is a tacit admission that you will in fact have a Scotch library.
Mm, if that is the case, I'm going to argue that the use of that word was not in
Matt,
the way
Matt,
that I just used it, which means expensive.
yeah, okay. So yeah, fine. You will stick with what you wish to have what you wish the record to have been, and I appreciate that. Whether or not that is in fact the record, neither here nor there. Uh,
Should the listener know of the episode of which you speak, he or she could email it in.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And our listeners are very meticulous, by the way. I won't call the name, but I had a chat with someone a couple of days ago who was able to take me through chapter and verse what I said on the show, the one that you were not with me for. We talked about the different classifications of Scotch and the different places in Scotland where Scotch is made. And so they are very well capable of pointing out exactly the episode and probably when in the episode. Either you said it or you didn't say it. We'll we'll hear from them, I have no doubt. Uh
I look forward.
yeah, yeah. So this week in the 242 was a very interesting week. Um
Why is that, sir?
oh, that tequila is so good. Oh my God. Uh two things happened that I thought would be interesting to chat with you about. One of the things that happened was that the government passed or introduced a piece of legislation called the Natural Gas Bill, which seeks to provide the Bahamas with a regulatory framework to govern the importation, regasification, storage, transport, and retail of natural gas. And I find that piece of legislation in itself very interesting, given the, well, for other reasons, and I think we'll get to those reasons when we chat about the natural gas bill if we get time to do it. But if not on this show, I definitely want us to take a look at this legislation for a more in-depth read and conversation, maybe next week or in some very near future show. But the other thing that happened that I thought was interesting and that I wanted to get your read on is the I guess the realization of what had been rumored for the last 2 years or so that the the former Prime Minister Hubert Minnis would challenge the current leader of the opposition, Michael Pintard, uh, and try to regain his position as leader of the Free National Movement. And I have, as the people say nowadays, I have thoughts. I definitely have thoughts. Um, but since you have such a great penchant for framing these conversations, I thought that I would ask you for how you see that before sort of really digging into what thoughts we may have on the issue.
So, party politics. You know, I
Not
love
necessarily
party
or not,
politics.
you know.
Right, right. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I'm reinforcing for the people who don't understand. I really am not a fan of party politics in general, certainly in the Bahamas. But I'd like to think of myself as a student of system dynamics. So here's a system. let's talk about it. Um, First of all, I'm gonna frame up a little bit, right? You being extra nice, generous, euphemistic. Sure, technically true, it was rumored, but it's completely transparent that Dr. Huberman has never wanted to leave, and at first opportunity was going to make his play, and that opportunity has now come. And if there was an early opportunity, he would have done it then. That's just plain as day to anyone. I'm not even interested in politics. We could see that. So there's no surprise here. The only reason that I begin with that is because if we get into the idea of strategy and how this sort of thing works overall, right? That's a known to anyone who is not willingly blind to the situation. And I think that's going to be important if we talk about his opponent, Pintard, current leader, his position, and how that plays into everything. So, from a system dynamics point of view, I think it is interesting just as a case study. Uh, Broadly speaking, again, party politics, sort of people who love Game of Thrones. I have nothing but love for you. Not my cup of tea. I don't like immersing myself in the nitty gritty dynamics. Um, I do enjoy sort of looking at it from afar and seeing strategy, but just to see the drama play out, not a fan. So that's sort of the broad framework in which I would talk about it with you.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
if you feel so inclined to continue.
Oh, I definitely feel so inclined, especially given the almost obvious. I don't know if I want to call it a target.
Ooh. Oh,
Um,
I'm getting notes of toffee.
uh,
Go ahead. I'm getting
yeah.
notes of toffee now. Go ahead.
Oh, great. The obvious sort of point of your comment towards what appears to be uh, Michael Pintard's inability to have staved off this challenge of his position as leader of the party. I'm of the view, I am of the view, and I'm trying to be as clean in my language as I can because I do have a tendency to opine in a very deliberate manner, which sometimes may give the impression that I believe my opinion to be fact when I know my opinion is merely my opinion. But in this circumstance, I believe that the inevitability of Dr. Minnis's decision to challenge Michael Pintard for leadership of the party is without question. I think Dr. Minnis has been telegraphing that intention practically from the moment that he was voted out of office. And my question really is, was there no way to prevent this attack? Could Michael Pintard not have done anything differently? From a systems perspective, I like framing it that way. I mean, from a personality perspective, I think this was inevitable. But from a systems perspective, there must have been a way of of preventing this, even if it is a thing that should be prevented. I don't know that it is at this point, but let's say that that's the perspective that we're taking.
Um, so let's this is a bit of speculation, but I mean, fairly, I think we're in safe territory to say that Pintard would rather not have an energetic uh, challenge to his leadership. Now, perhaps this is a miscalculation on his part. Perhaps um, it's just poor strategy, or perhaps he's making a gambit that will either be winner take all or you know complete disaster. But let's say you didn't want this to occur. Certainly, there are some blindly obvious things that you could implement in a 24-ish month time period to stop it from happening, or at least mitigate against it. Uh, the thing about politics is, this is all network. At the end of the day, you have to personally gain the confidence of the people that matter, the delegates on the floor. And some of that confidence building is direct and some of it is indirect. And it does seem, and again, I don't have the details because I'm not interested in this day to day. But just as a Bahamian, hearing things and seeing the news, which can be a fair proxy for certain things, if one were to want to mitigate against this and strengthen the networks and gain the confidence of the delegates and essentially weaken Minnes's position ahead of time, he has done a poor job of it. He has not shown a lot of signs of bringing the flock together. So simply having a plan of outreach and executing on that, um, either he didn't have one, he didn't think it was important, or he has not executed on it well at all. So, a little up in the air. Can't say for sure. I know him a little bit in passing, but who knows what the full motivation is? I mean, you may know. You're very connected.
You
Perhaps you could
are,
input some variables in and we could opine a little more accurately.
ladies and gentlemen, that wicked laugh you heard at the end of that statement is proof that Matthew knows very well that he is just trying to stir up trouble, and that I will not be led uh, by the nose into the prickle patch that he is trying to lead me into. So, moving right along, Matthew, I agree with what you have laid out, but my question, not but, and my question is, let's say we take the focus away from Mr. Pintard and what he did or did not do, and for whatever reason, and focus our questions on my question on Dr. Minnis, right? The the result of the 2021 election was very clear. It was a resounding defeat of the FNM. Now, if you're familiar with the way the numbers work, you know that there is significant nuance in that statement. The fact is, I believe the PLP only got 9,000 more votes in 2021 than they did in 2017. And I believe, if I remember the math correctly, that if the FNM had simply retained the same number of votes that they had in 2017, they would have won the election. But 40 something, I think it was close to 46,000 FNMs stayed home and
Mhm.
chose not to vote, which allowed the PLP to win with what are clearly overwhelming numbers. And that overwhelming numbers seems to have translated into an overwhelming mandate. Whether the Davis administration has done uh, what they have done with that apparent mandate is up for the electorate to decide, obviously. But circling back to Dr. Minnis, he was soundly and roundly rejected at the polls in September of 2021. Why he was rejected is calculus that he must have undertaken, but the fact of his rejection, I think, is incontestable. So, given the scope of that rejection, which was tremendous, why would he seek the leadership of the party again? And
Hold.
more importantly, why would people who were affected by the rejection of Dr. Minnis, and I'm talking about people who lost their seats, why would they support Dr. Minnis in his bid to regain the leadership of the party? I, I, that's actually a genuine question that I have. That I'm not opening a position for debate here. I'm just curious, and I'm curious about what you think.
I think that certain general, let's not say rules, certain general aspects of systems are transferable. Not not in their entirety, but the the way the Bahamian political system works for parliament and therefore the executive is the vote in your constituency, first past post, majority in parliament gets to form the government. Because of the way that that works, and here's something that I will directly critique politicians for, right? And why I am not interested at all in talking to a politician about politics unless they are willing to address this is that they never talk about the system itself. They tell you what they're going to do and why they're better than the other person, yada, 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 right? It's all, surface fluff, BS. They never want to get to the root of the issue. And the root of the issue here, I'm going to translate this over into the internal party politics in a minute, is first past post inevitably leads to not voting for who you want, but voting against what you don't want. The calculus is simple. This is why third parties have such a hard time forming and getting a grip in the system. Yeah, I like what you're saying, but it's unlikely that you're going to get the majority of the vote and be first past post. And if I do that, I'll be taking away votes from this guy over here who I like less, but he has a bigger following because he has a big party behind him. And my real goal is to make sure that the person who I really don't like from party Y doesn't get in. So, no, Mr. Independent, Mr. Third Party person who I really like, I can't give you my vote. I have to give it to the most likely opposition against the position that I really dislike. And so you get two entrenched encampments. In this case, FNM and PLP. It is against a politician's interest to talk about that because their interest is not to actually serve you, it's to get in and serve what the party wants. Now, translate that into the party. I have my encampment. It's not as if you have a party and everybody is hunky dory, singing, laughing, kissing, hugging, and all is good, whether we win or lose. People are following their own interests and they have loyalties. And depending on the personality type, which is highly selected for in these parties, you're going to get people being rabid about it and or unwilling to let go of their sunk costs. So while I think it's stupid, I am not surprised that there's a large subset of people still pushing Menace after a very sound defeat. Now, maybe they just have no confidence in Pintard, or maybe they are they believe that they're going to get something out of Menace, or there's a number of different reasons why one could support, but I'm not surprised by it at all. The bigger question to me is why do we continue as intelligent Bahamians to let this broader issue of the system not be spoken about, not brought to the front, so that at least in our grandchildren's time or our great grandchildren's time, something will change. Is that like it's definitely not going to change uh in my generation before my generation is close to death, right? But if we don't address this, then the political systems will continue. You know, um, Christie, he didn't lose the position of the party, a party leader, when he was soundly defeated, but he did refuse to leave. So it's not as if this is some precedent that Menace is setting, right? We select for these people in the party system. And unfortunately, we don't apply pressure to the party systems to change. They're very difficult to change. Um, and so while the psychology of Menace in this is kind of interesting to me, what is very, very irksome is that he's not an anomaly. He's an inevitability. Maybe not every leader is going to be this way, but there's a strong likelihood that when you get someone like that, they're going to find a little niche, hook in, and then all of the eddies that are created around them are going to create this drama and chaos within the party. Now, there's a broader question of should we care about it? Does it matter, etc. But from the point of view of the Bahamian public being served by these parties, it 100% matters because there's no way that a man or woman who has the country's interest at heart would be doing this. That's my view. He would have stepped down right after the election.
I hear you. I agree with you on a principle level. But I think one of the things that we have observed in our politics is that principled positions do not last, generally speaking.
I I generally don't want to cut you off, generally, but I do want right now because so I had this conversation with my father the other day, and he was asking my position on what a representative should be in our system. And there's the question of what the constituency thinks about an issue versus, what that representative who was put there thinks about an issue. and how that tension should work, right? But after working through that conversation a bit, my major point to him was after the idea of education came up, you can have a brilliantly performative, and I mean performative in terms of like actually like things getting done, not we're just putting on a show. Uh System, the more educated the people who make up that system are. The problem is that's an unstable situation. And you have to design your system to be able to deal with when the majority of the people aren't thinking well about any given issue or set of issues. To be un-PC about it, you got to design for the dummies. Now, I could get a lot of blowback for that, but I'm willing to defend my position on it. I say that because you said principled positions rarely last. That's because we're not designing the system for resilience. And we're not designing the system for resilience because we're not thinking overall about how these, in this instance, these two parties affect us so deeply and the pressures that we should be putting on them for whatever it is that we collectively decide this is the purpose, this is how things should serve us in this instance, right? But looking at the PLP and the FNM's constitutions, I think it would be super informative about, well, no, there'd be great case studies in terms of then being able to make predictions. XYZ is going to happen or likely to happen in this organization in time frame of like 5 years, a decade, this and the next, right? And while we can't predict the individual stuff, we could predict broadly and say, you know, this type of dynamic is likely to develop, and it's likely that someone within this personality range is going to do X, Y, and Z. But we don't care enough. We don't care enough, partially because we're desensitized by more immediate incentives and the difficulty of really attacking this issue. But this country, while it's a better democracy than a lot of places around the world, is run by two organizations who basically decide our fate. Now, if if we look at political organizations, sure, okay, we expect, yes, that's how party systems work. But if I don't tell you that these are so-called democratic political parties, right? If I just told you that two organizations run this town, sound a little gangsterous to me.
The problem with that, Matthew, is that these two organizations are our avatars in the game show that we are calling life in 2024. We do not wish to
Uh,
dirt. We do not wish to dirty our hands actually living. We do not wish to dirty our minds actually making decisions. And I would argue that we have come to the conclusion that it is better overall for people we deem to be smarter than us and people we deem to have more ability to make good decisions than we do to be placed in a position to make those decisions for us
okay, look,
so that we are
for those,
absolved of the responsibility for the state of affairs that we find ourselves living in.
right, that's the rationalization. Okay, for anyone who's not familiar with acting and passing, right? You got the text and the subtext, right? And some people like to add sort of context or whatever, right? The
Uh-huh.
point being, that's what's said. That's what people even allow themselves to tell themselves. That's the rationalization. But that's not what we actually do.
What do we
We don't
actually do, Matthew?
actually we don't actually think that these people are going to make the decisions better than us in our for our benefit. Who
Of course
believes
we
that?
do.
Who,
Of course we do.
dude?
Every
Show me,
person,
get me a
every
cohort
single
of a
person.
hundred Bahamians at random. No,
Sorry,
sir.
sorry. Let me finish. We have a bit of a lag, so that sounded like I was saying every single person. What I meant, what I was saying was every single person who runs, who builds their career, builds their life from childhood in order to prepare themselves to run for political office, believes that they are called by some higher power and
Mm.
blessed by that higher power to be
Right.
able to make decisions that will better the lives of thousands of people. And
I
they
don't dispute that.
and the way they go about getting to that place is by convincing, in our case, in the Bahamas, convincing 5,000 people, or at least the majority of 5,000 people, that they are right. And so the majority of those 5,000 people vote for
No,
them because
that's no,
they
that's where it
think
breaks down.
it doesn't break down. That's exactly what is happening.
Strongly number five, circle on the right, strongly disagree.
Okay. Show me the substance of your disagreement.
Those people, first of all, that's not all of the politicians. Some of them do believe that, right? And they're whether they are correct or not is beside the point, so I won't touch it. But when you say they then convince the 5,000 people in party X or Y that to also believe that, strongly disagree. Some, I will concede, there are some people who are true believers. I know a few. I am continually amazed by them that they think the party is for this or that or next, right? And there may even be some people who are very practically minded in government, not just even in the party, but in government itself, who will try to do the best given the circumstances, understanding the reality of how government works and politics, etc. They may exist. I'm talking about the majority of the people. There is no way that you could get me to believe, unless you conduct a super valid scientific study of a cohort of these people, that they are voting for that person because they've been convinced, oh, yes, this person will do the best for the country. And that's what this party is about. No, these people are self interested. At the very least, they are party interested. And that dynamic is what stops the country from moving forward more quickly. Now, I'm
You
glad that I
you are
live here as opposed to many places in the world. But the fact of the matter is that we allow these two parties in this instant. And listen, if either one of these parties was dissolved tomorrow, the dynamic will stay the same. A new party will come and it will still be a two-party system. So I'm not gonna hit out against the PLP or the FNM because the specifics of the matter is not the problem. It's the system as a whole. But no one that I know is thinking, hey, yeah, let's nominate this person because they're definitely gonna do well for the country. Come on, man. Come on. What naive world are we living in, or naive notion of the world do we want to push when we say that?
okay. So you are severely broken, and I'm sorry for you. that you believe that, but you've also completely missed my point. My point was not about the party. My point was, and the reason I chose 5,000 is because that's the average number of constituents in Bahamian constituencies. I'm not talking about the party.
Party constituency doesn't
Yeah,
matter. Same
no, it does
dynamic.
matter. It absolutely does
And
matter.
plus, you completely jumped over the fact that I outlined the mechanism in which we vote as a constituency anyway. We're not voting, oh, this person can do good for the country. No, 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 no. We voting because we don't want the other person to be there.
Well, Matthew, if that's how you're voting, that's one thing. But
That's
I
the
don't.
majority of people.
Until you do the same survey you are demanding that I do, I refuse to believe that.
That's fine. I
You are
I
you
I
are
will
being just as didactic at this moment as I am, and you are making
perhaps, right? But
you
I
are
I
making.
believe I believe that my chain of reasoning here is much better than yours, right?
Well,
And
of course you do. It's your
um
chain of reasoning.
if I if I had fair enough, right? But put a lot of thought into it.
I'm not saying you
Um,
haven't. I don't. I'm not disputing that at all. But to assume that I haven't put thought into my reasoning is mildly insulting, Matthew.
no, 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 no. Let's let's
But
not
by now
let's
they
not
know I'm
leave.
teasing. By now they
Okay,
know I'm kidding.
see, you got me so hot that I don't know that you're teasing.
I'm kidding, man.
But
Come on.
but here's the thing, right? Uh, if I if I had the excess cash, I would run that study. Let me ask you a different question. Why haven't your buddies at UB run this study?
There is an actual answer to that question.
You don't have to answer. You don't have to answer.
I I suspect, and I suspect because I do not know because I have not had an actual conversation with them about it. But I am suspecting, based on my own history working at the institution, that somebody has in fact run said study, and that we have just not been privy to the results of that study. And I will bet you money that
Well,
the person who ran that study did so under the guise of a class in poli sci, and used it as a way of grading students' papers or teaching some kind of a lesson, and would never in a million years release said study into the public, because that's what the Government and Public Policy Institute is all about. Whether or not the GPPI is doing that kind of thing, I believe they are. But like I say, I don't think they would. I'm sure that that study has been done, but for reasons that should be obvious. But if they're not obvious, I can elucidate. I doubt that they would release that study in public. And the reason, in case I need to elucidate, is because politicians have been very plain and very blunt with that institution. While you may believe in academic freedom as much as you want, as long as the government controls your budget, you could take academic freedom and put it where the sun don't shine. The minute the University of the Bahamas is responsible for its own budget and is not dependent on the government, I guarantee you all of these studies that we're talking about will be dumped into the public, where we will find that this study was done in 1972, this one was done in 1986, this one was done in 2022, this one was. I guarantee you they're doing this work because those people are brilliant and they are Bahamian and they are just as frustrated as the rest of us.
I mean that's good, but that's like having books and not reading.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I do. Nonetheless, this tequila is spectacular. My God. Okay. And this is the thing, right? Tequila is not a. I understand that you want to you shot tequila because you think that that's what it's for, and because tequila is, you all like to call it tequila, and you want to get mess up dead fast and whatever, right? But take an opportunity. here, right? If you have what they call a top shelf tequila, a luxury tequila like Casa Noble, uh, instead of shotting it, sit down with it and sip it over the course of an hour and just see what the experience is like. I guarantee you it's a different world. It's a different world. This is really, really good. I know this is the Sunday Scotch Society, and so technically, our listeners and partners in crime here expect us to do Scotch all the time, but it is Cinco
All
de Mayo.
fine spirits are welcome.
Yeah, all fine spirits are welcome. I agree. What's the email again? Neat, is that right?
Neat at sundayscotch.com.
Yeah, neat at sundayscotch.com. Matthew, this is clearly a a subject that we need to spend some more time on. And it's politics adjacent, but we're not really talking about party politics. Party politics is the medium for the conversation, but it's not the point of the conversation, right? And I hope that all of our particularly partisan listeners will understand. I ain't talking about your party. I talking about leadership. I talking about system dynamics. I don't care about Minnis' bid for leadership of the party. Michael is a friend of mine, and I wish him well. But that's the extent of it. Okay, this is not about the FNM or the PLB. This is about how we as Bahamians are interacting with the mechanisms that have been set up by us to carry out our collective will, and whether or not those mechanisms are functioning in a way that we consider healthy and productive.
Yeah, you got me a little hot today, Quincy. Uh, you know, I guess I wouldn't mind revisiting this the slightly more mellow approach.
Of course, of course.
But
But
man,
and
you
I'm
you
glad,
touched some buttons today.
apparently so, and I'm glad that that happened because I think it's important and healthy, Matthew, for our listeners and partners to know that that we, as much as we like to joke and have a good time, we are passionate about this stuff. It means something to us. It's real. So I'm glad that you were able to unburden yourself just a little bit. And I look forward to the next conversation. Like I say, I think I want to talk next time about the new LNG bill, um, and what it means for energy production and the energy situation in the country, if anything. So that's I think that's probably going to be the next conversation that we have. Hey,
Energy in general, yes. We'll frame it around the bill.
yeah, my brother, thank you for sharing.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
you had a nice doers, and I had the Casa Noble Blanco. Oh my goodness, delicious. Mhm. At the end there, it's like the pear was soaked um in something like a almost like a simple syrup. It got really super fruity, but because of the smoke and the spice from the agave, it didn't get overly sweet. You know what I'm saying? So the finish is really fruity, but not overly sweet. It's really nice. I like it a lot. Anyway, man, thank you, and I will speak with you soon. I hope things continue to move in positive directions in Freedom Town, Freedom Land, Freedom Island, whatever you all call it.
This is what I call it.
Ciao, bello.
Ciao.
And as what is the next? That's that over. That's that over. That's that over.